What led you into becoming a DJ?
One thing from another, really. It wasn't a conscious decision, right, I'm going to be a DJ. Let's get on with this. It's just, I've been surrounded by music, and when my dad stopped buying music, I wanted to continue being surrounded by music. So I actually went out and started buying music myself, mainly reggae. And then after a while, I remember meeting up with a new group of friends who were into jazz at the time and listening to some jazz stuff, Herbie Hancock and stuff like that, thinking, wow, this is good. I'm ready for this type of music. And so I kind of like stopped buying as much reggae and started buying a lot more jazz. And then you got to an age where you started going out into clubs, into the town centre, and you're listening to what the DJs in the club were playing. They were playing mainly jazz funk. This is sort of like late 70s. And I realised that a lot of the records that they were playing, I had them. In fact, I actually started playing in Moss Side Youth Club, which is now the Powerhouse, which eventually became the Powerhouse in Moss Side. I always used to go out to the late night blues and shebeens that used to proliferate around Moss Side in those areas, and I ended up playing in a few of those, and then from there I ended up just kind of like warming up for a sound system in the Nile. I never went in the Reno back in the early days because I wasn't into soul at all. I remember going down into the Reno once and it was packed. I thought, God, too many people, I went back upstairs in the Nile.
So was there a difference between the DJs then and people who DJ now, do you think?
Major. You needed more skill back then. You needed to have the ability to read your audience. Because back in those days we were working on one deck, which is probably usually a garage deck. You're playing 7 inches. You play 1 7 and then it finishes, and then you take it off and put another one on and so forth. There was a technique that you could do where you could change the music really, really quickly. I mean, some DJs, they were really phenomenal with it. It's a technique of, you had the 7 inch. I was right-handed, so you operated the stylus with your right hand. You take it off with your right hand, and then you'd have a 7 inch in your left hand, and then you'd put it on top of the one that's playing, and then slowly flip the one that's playing up, and then drop the other one on top, and then put the needle on. That sort of thing. It takes practice, but you could do it really, really quick with practice. That was the skill that you had to learn, so that if the gap was too long in between the changing of a record, what would happen is people would drift off the dance floor. So in order to keep that momentum, you have to learn how to switch it very quick and get the next track going before they get a chance to walk off. And you have to, you have to know your audience. There has to be some sort of a happy medium between yourself and your audience. You have to know what they wanted in order to keep them on the floor, keep them dancing all night through. If you put a bad record on, there'd be kind of like a downturn on the night, and everybody would sort of like, walk off the floor and that sort of thing.
So there's sort of a more intimate relationship between DJ and audience. Yeah, there were. And you get the blame if it goes wrong.
Oh yeah, yes, definitely. I mean, it was the blame situation. It wasn't anything negative, people just hiss you and come up and joke with you and stuff, and you'll apologise and put another record on or something like that. But yeah, there was more intimacy back in those days, and of course the clubs were smaller. They only held like a couple of thousand people, whereas you have clubs now that it's a couple of thousand, couple of hundred people. Whereas nowadays you have a nightclub with 1,000, 2,000 capacity. This is totally different. I think it's impossible to develop that kind of intimate relationship with that many people in one night. So yeah, there is a major difference.
So what do you think the role of the DJs was then in terms of the community and the importance that it had?
The DJ was very important. within that community. You were like, there's a record out that came out in the 70s by Prince Philip Mitchell called Star in the Ghetto, where he talks about he's never going to be a star on Broadway, but he's going to be a star in the ghetto, and it's very much like that, you know. You were respected. You'd be walking down the street and people will be letting on to you and giving you a high five and whatever, you know, and you were highly respected. It was just totally different back in those days. You know, if there was ever any trouble in the community, and because everybody knew you, you could be like some sort of like a community policeman. If you saw a couple of youth fighting or somebody arguing or something like that, you could go over, and because you knew both people, you could like calm the situation down and, you know, diffuse any sort of negativity that was there. That whole concept of the community DJ, as communities have sort of like broken up or become more diverse, you know, there's a lot of the black people started moving out of Moss Side and sort of like moving to Stretford or Wythenshawe or places like that. As you saw the breakup of the community, I think we started losing contact with one another. And so the DJ, he would sort of like pull everybody back together, you know, by putting parties on and stuff like that, and then old friends will get together and meet up. It's a kind of, like a community diplomat